Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to the DB IP Group Innovators live Q&A, your daily live cast, bringing you guys awesome intellectual property content every single day of the week, trying to bring as much important information as we can on intellectual property, covering patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, everything involving IP. We want to help you guys navigate the IP world. So we're doing a whole series of episodes on Nintendo controllers. We did a whole series prior. We're going to finish up that series by looking at Nintendo design patents from 2015 to present. We're going to see there's about 25. We're going to go through them pretty quickly, but it's super interesting. You're going to see a whole bunch of cool designs and some Nintendo controllers that you may not have even known existed. So in order to get started, I'm going to show you guys how you guys can do this start to finish, starting at the uspto.gov site, so that you guys can use these similar techniques to research other companies that you guys might want to do deep dives and study their intellectual property portfolios on. So the first things first, I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see what I'm doing. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to uspto.gov. TSDR, that's for trademarks. You want to go to uspto.gov. And once you're here, you're going to want to click on search for patents. And then once you're in search for patents, you're going to want to do a full text patent search. So you see right here, search full text patents. This is how we're going to find patents that are issued. And again, you can use these techniques that I'm showing you here for literally any company that you're interested in studying. So let's get into it. So what you're going to want to do is you want to click on advanced search right here. And then we're going to do a search here based on assignee. So AN stands for assignee. And we're going to type in Nintendo. Now, by the way, if you guys are doing this on your own and you're like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to know that AN stands for assignee? Well, first of all, if you forgot how to find this video, it's all good. All you do is scroll down right here, and you can see there's a whole legend. It actually explains to you what each of these search fields are. So as you can see, if you go down, you'll see AN here stands for assignee name. So we're going to search assignee name, and then we're going to use a Boolean and then we're going to look for titles that have the word controller in them. So we're going to focus just on controller. Again, obviously, this is a very, very narrow search. Nintendo has an enormous IP portfolio, but we're trying to concentrate on just controllers and just design patents, just so that we can keep the show super visual and garner a whole lot of information really quickly. So APT stands for application type, and for will give you all design patents. Again, search code. If you don't know what the search code is, that's okay, because there's a legend down here and you can see application type. Now, if you didn't know that for was design, all you have to do is click on application type and it'll actually explain to you that for is a design. So returning back to our search, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for having design patents having issue dates. ISD stands for issue date, starting on January 1st of 2015 and going up until January. Actually, we're gonna do today actually. So 4/11/2021, and then I'm gonna click search. Now what we're gonna see is we're gonna get 25 hits here. 25 hits. So these are the 25 patents that have issued since January 1st of 2015. Now, rather than click through every single one, what I just want you guys to know, I already downloaded all of these PDFs. Actually, Victoria did. Thank you, Victoria. So what I want to do is I'm going to start from the earliest one, which is going to be down below, and go up to the top. But I'm not going to make you guys wait and have me click through every single one of these because it would take a little bit of time. So I've already opened them beforehand. So this is this patent here, this 963 patent right here, accessory controller for computer. And this right here is basically the wheel for the Nintendo Switch controller. So again, the Nintendo Switch actually fits right into this steering wheel right here. And as you can see, if you scroll down, you can see there's probably going to be a design, a drawing that actually shows that. If we scroll down, a lot of these Nintendo patents have that. Here you go right here. So right here, as you can see, this is a common technique where you'll actually see a dashed line figure. So the dashed line components are not part of the claim design, and you'll see that actually drafted in the specification itself. They'll actually say that in the design patent. So as you can see, figure 9, right here, it says the broken lines in the figure are for illustrative purposes only and form no part of the claim design. Very common language that you'll see in a lot of design patents. So again, this is the Nintendo steering wheel for the Switch controller. Let's move on. So this was in August 29, 2017. So let's move on. Now this is this is a U-shaped design. I did a little bit of research. Apparently this was Nintendo's design for a fitness controller. Some people refer to it as the Nintendo NX. Couldn't find much more else, but if anyone in the comments found anything or think that have anything to say about this, please feel free to chime in. But this is, again, this is a U-shaped Nintendo controller, and it issued in 2018 on January 30th, 2018. Let's move on. Here's another funky looking controller, spaceship looking controller here. As you can see, this actually covers both components. Now, as we go forward, so this was issued in April 17th, 2018, you're going to see that they actually have design patents on different aspects of this same design. So I'm going to toggle forward. I'm going to toggle forward a couple design patents just so you can see. So this right here was that top design by itself. So remember, for design patents, you can actually file design patents on multiple components of the same product or of accessory products, and you can file multiple. So you can actually file one design patent that covers both the core device and the accessory, and then you can file separate design patents on the accessory by itself, independent of the core component. And what you'll find is Nintendo does this all the time. So various accessory components of Nintendo are patented with design patents separate from the core controller. And this is a prime example. Now, I jumped forward a little bit, so let's go back. Again, here you go. So this controller is probably pretty familiar to a lot of you guys. So this is another common Nintendo controller. And again, this issued in June 5, 2018. Right here, and as you can see, I'm just going to scroll through to show you various views of it. And again, they're claiming the entire controller here. There's no dashed lines, except for, yeah, I don't actually. This one doesn't have any dashed lines, so the entire controller is being claimed under this design. So pretty neat. Now, if we keep going forward, as you can see, we're going to go forward in time. Again, this is June 5, 2018. We're going to move forward. This is also June 5, 2018. Now, this is part of the Switch controller. A lot of you are probably pretty familiar with. And again, these started issuing in 2018. And as we go through this show, we're going to see there's a lot of Nintendo Switch related design patents. Now, this is interestingly just one side of it, one part of the controller. And as I just said, you're going to see this a lot with design patents, where you have big companies like Nintendo filing multiple design patents on various components of the overall overarching product. So prime examples. This is one part of the controller. And as we go through the episode, we're going to see other parts of the controller in addition to the entire controller as a whole actually patented. So pretty neat. Okay, let's go forward. So again, now we're still in 2018, but now we're in August. Now this is another component of it. So as you can see, there's another component of the Switch. There you have it here. So okay, now this is pretty cool because you actually see how it actually connects with the other part of the controller, right? Now, remember, the dashed lines aren't part of the claim design. They're only claiming this portion here up top that connects to the side piece. Now let's go forward in time. Now, we saw this before. Ha! Yep, the controller shaped like a U looks a lot like Xbox's 360. Whoops. Let's see, what was I on? I was on 18, I believe. Yeah, okay. So we saw this patent earlier, but it was actually attached to the other controller. Now, this design patent here is interesting because this one is focusing primarily on the upper buttons on the top of the controller. So all the dashed lines are not claimed as a feature of the mark, right? So it's only focusing on these four buttons up top right here. Everything else not claimed. So it's only these buttons here. Everything else is in dashed lines. So pretty interesting. Move forward in time. Now we're in 2019. So again, this is actually also focusing on the Switch, but it's only focusing on the top panel buttons. So the joystick and the four buttons below. It's not focusing on any of the connectors on the side, only the buttons on the top panel. So as you can see, a lot of dashed lines in this patent, not even the back, all dashed lines in the back views, side views, all dashed lines. The only thing that's being claimed in this design patent are the buttons and the joystick. So, and you'll see this a lot. They'll actually file multiple design patents on the identical object, but they'll use dashed lines to focus the design patent on only certain aspects of that component. In this case, they're just focusing on the four buttons and the joystick. Let's go forward in time. So now we're in 2020, February 11, 2020. And again, this is almost like the inverse. So they're ignoring the buttons and they're only focusing on the shape and the curvature of the switch controller, right? So they in this one they have the buttons and joystick in dashed lines. So kind of interesting. It's the inverse basically of what we saw last time. So in the last patent, they had dashed lines for all the buttons. In this one, they have dashed lines for everything but the buttons. Now, this design patent is covering everything joystick. So this is the other side of the controller, right? So the last controllers had the buttons and joystick, right? Let me show you guys. Wait, I jumped forward too quickly. But basically, as you can see, this one covers buttons and joystick. Now, this one is the other side of that controller, and it's just it's the pad, it's the direction pad, and the joystick. And we're going to see again. Here's another design patent on just the shape and the case, and excluding the buttons. And again, we're moving forward in time. This issued February 18, 2020. Let's go forward in time a little more. This is February 25, 2020. Again, so this is the overall controller. And again, in this one, they're claiming everything, even the buttons and the shape of the actual controller. Pretty neat. Let's go forward in time. So this issued March 17, 2020. And again, they're claiming the entire side of the Switch controller, which has the buttons and the directional keypad, the direction pad. I lost my place here a little bit. I apologize. I think we're here. Yeah. Let's go forward in time. Now, again, they're doing the inverse where they actually put the buttons and the joystick in dashed lines and then solid lines for everything else. Now, this is covering the overall controller. Again, covering the overall controller in this one. Again, overall controller. No dashed lines. They're claiming the entire design of the entire side of that Switch controller. Now we're in April 7, 2020. And as you can see, in this one, they're also claiming the overall design. Pretty neat. No dashed lines in this one. We saw this controller before. We saw the variation where they filed on just the top portion. Now they're just focusing on the handles, right, where the user actually holds the controller. And the center part is all in dashed lines. Now this issued in April 28, 2020. Again, a lot of dashed lines. In this one, they're focusing on the overall controller shape and design. All the buttons are in dashed lines. So they're not claiming any of the buttons as part of the design for this one. This design pattern is just focusing on the shape and contours of the controller itself, not any of the buttons. Again, Nintendo does this all the time. A lot of patents like this. Now, in this design patent, this is kind of interesting. In this one, they're focusing just on that joystick right here. So on the contours of that joystick. So a lot of dashed lines except for that joystick, which is all in solid. Let's see if they tell us anything interesting about that. So, yeah. So it's just focused on the joystick. Now we're April 28, 2020. And again, similar controller, but now they're focusing on the top buttons up top, right? So these top buttons are in solid. So these buttons are the subject of this particular design patent. Again, Nintendo does this all the time where they will file on specific buttons on the controller, but they'll file multiple, right? So there'll be another design patent on the overall, on the keypads, on the on certain panels, and then on the complete overall controller. So April 28, 2020. Okay, so now this one's interesting. So this is actually focusing on the connector, right? So it's the connector of the Switch controller. Everything else is dashed line, so nothing else is claimed as feature of this design patent. So the joystick, the buttons, even the overall shape of the switch controller being disregarded. They're focusing on just the connector, so just the side here. Now we're in June 2nd, 2020. This right here, this is a handle, looks like, for a controller. It's a control side grip, it looks like. Let's see if we have any context. Sometimes they have good figures that show how this fits with another controller. So this is just the handle. So this is the handle for a Nintendo controller. And now we're in July 7, 2020. So this looks like another accessory device that's going to plug into, looks like the Twitch. Sorry, the Switch. Let's see if there's a figure that shows. Oh, here we go. So this is how it actually connects into this. So again, dash lines not claimed as a feature of the mark. So they're focusing on this base portion here. Let's move on. So now we're in October 2020. Now this is the Pokemon Go controller, guys. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar, but Pokemon Let's Go. Again, Pokemon Go controller, pretty neat. The centerpiece. This is actually a joystick here and button. So. And then if we go forward again, December 1st, 2020. So this controller, this one is interesting. Let's figure out what exactly is being claimed here. It looks like they're focusing on just this interface right here, this intersection here. So those contours, those lines. Let's see if they give us any indication as to what it is. So it's really interesting that they're so focused on that interface, on that connection point. So the dash, dot, broken lines depict the boundary of the claim. So, yeah, so it looks like they're really focused on that interface there where the handle actually connects to the controller. Pretty interesting, guys. I don't know if you guys have already noticed this, but basically this handle here, this was what we saw before right here. It looks like. Now, let's look at the very, very last patent for today. And this issued most recently, March 2nd, 2021. And this is covering part of the Switch controller. And again, it's covering the overall design. So that includes the buttons as well as every aspect of this particular portion of the controller. Pretty neat. No dash lines, everything's being claimed, including the buttons. So yeah, again, this is episode number 150. I hope you guys found this pretty useful. It's really, really interesting to study big companies like Nintendo that have enormous resources and can seriously invest in developing a design patent portfolio. Nintendo also has a lot of utility patents. We're going to do some deep dives. We're going to take a look at numerous Nintendo trademarks and some other gaming controller trademarks in future episodes. So thanks so much for watching. If you guys have specific questions about intellectual property, please feel free to email them to victoria@dbip.com. We also have a community number. If you would, please text our community, join our community, 415-943-5193, 415-943-5193. We'd love to have you in our text community. If you text that number, you'll get direct access to me. You can send me your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them and get them answered on the show. Thanks so much for watching. This is episode number 150, and looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for episode number 151.